right. Today I'm going to take a little detour and explain the wave. What most folks know about wave charts is that, just Weiss wave or wave volume. But I'm going to explain it a little bit differently to clarify the different factors of, Weiss wave or wave volume and all of that. Basically waves, their characteristics, and how to interpret them, and how you can use it to identify supply and demand, and changes in supply or increase in supply or increase in demand. The first thing you need to understand is that wave or supply and demand has certain factors. First is obviously price, the other is volume, and the third is time. If you take a look at any tape reading tool, basically at a certain time you have a certain amount of volume at a certain price. That's it. That's raw data. Right? This particular time you have this much volume at this price, then there's some speed and other things like that, but these are the three factors. Now here's the important part, all right, that I don't think is explained as much as it should be. These two are inputs. Price is the output. So that's how I'm going to explain it. Time and volume are input, and the output or the result of this input is price. So looking from it from an input-output perspective is easier for people to understand. And it's easier for anyone, especially if you have any technical background, to understand input-output. Right? So what does that mean? All right, now I'm going to explain this. So let's say we have 1,000 contracts here. Let's say we have 700 here for this wave. And then let's say we have 1,100 for that third wave. So the input is 1,000, then 700, then 1,100 contracts. That's a lot of effort, a lot of input in the third wave, relatively speaking. Now from the output, let's say this thing, and I'm just using easy examples. This goes up 5 points. Next one goes up 4 points. Next one goes up 3 points. So what you notice about this is that the third wave here has the most amount of input, but the least amount of output. Most amount of input, least amount of output. So this is how you want to view things. Input, output. It'll make it easy to understand. And realize, why is it that there's so much input but a lack of output? And the reason is simple. Demand found supply. Supply was found on this up wave. It's as simple as that. The reason why it's not going up, as David would say, is because of bag holding. Effort, reward, bag holding, whatever, Right? So this is bag holding, or a lot of input, not a lot of output. All right, now the second thing to understand is your input can be volume, but it can also be time. So let's say the first wave, I'll just give like a 15-minute. Second wave, 10-minute. Third wave, 25-minute. So here again, you see the most amount of input in terms of time, but the least amount of output in terms of distance, right? So a lot of input, but not a lot of output. And that could be in terms of volume or time. Now, why is that the case? Well, it's because of bag holding. You know, there's a very strong correlation between time and volume. If you look at any chart, you'll notice that it takes time to build volume. And generally, you need more time to move the market, and that automatically builds volume. So you see it, and it's such a close correlation that it can be used almost perfectly with effort reward and bag holding. It's really, really amazing. The correlation between time and volume is, I mean, they're almost, anytime you have a lot of volume, you're going to see a lot of time. All right. However, for climax identification, for effort reward, you can use time instead of volume. Is the same, like you'll see it. Because what you call effort with the volume is called dullness with time. Dullness with time is the same thing as effort with volume. You know, you usually have a lot of bars, meaning you have a lot of volume and you have a lot of time. All right, but when it comes to climaxes, still, you know, I would still stick with volume because it is the best. And this is very, very unique for volume, and time cannot replicate it. And you will see this on bars, especially on the daily, right? Where you have one bar with a lot of volume and then one bar with a little volume. They both have the same amount of time, meaning 1 day and 1 day on a daily chart, but one has much more volume and the other has less volume. So that's why you can use time to replace volume on wave charts, especially intraday, and it'll work just fine on wave chart, but you cannot use it on bar chart. But obviously, every day has a different amount of volume, but the same amount of time, because each bar represents 1 day. So this disproves that you can use time to replace volume, since there are stark differences between the two on a daily chart. But on an intraday basis, you can use time and volume. One will represent volume, effort, and the other will represent dullness. And for wave charts, they work. But on the daily, you need that daily volume. You know, that has to be, it's not the same volume. You need volume totally distinct. All right, the very important distinctions that are made here. All right, now I've said input is time and volume, and the output, I've put it in terms of price distance, meaning the wave or the length of the wave. Price distance is the length of the wave, is 5 points, 4 points, you know, all of that. But there is another thing to always keep in mind. You see, input is time or volume, output is price, but price, distance, and there's something else, and that is thrust, the amount of thrust. So output is a function of price, and that can be manifested as distance, which is just the length, L-E-N-G-T-H, of the wave. That's one important thing. And the other is thrust. So output needs to be considered as both. You have to see the distance of the wave and amount of thrust, which is the progress from high to high or low to low. Okay, so let's take a look at an example of that. All right, so you have this wave here, okay, and let's say you got what is it? Let's just use 1,000 contracts. 1,000 contracts, right? All right, now let's make another one here also. Let's say this is 700 contracts. This wave gave 700 contracts. This wave did 1,000 contracts. And from the thrust, meaning the high to high, you see a lot of what? Progress, right? Now you go here and let's say you do another 1,000. Now from high to high, the distance between high to high, where's the difference between these two horizontal lines, right, is much less. So let's say the distance here from high to high is, let's just give arbitrary number, 5 points. Now the distance here to here is like, maybe let's just say 1 point. So, I forgot to put 0. All right, so 700 contracts, then 1,000 contracts. And now, instead of looking at distance, we're looking at progress in terms of thrust from high to high. And we see in terms of progress, 1,000 contracts gave you 5 points of progress. Then the same 1,000 gave you only 1 point of progress from high to high. This is bearish. There's a problem here. Okay? This is a problem because you're not making progress. And you know why? Because the sellers are in. They took the market all the way down and it took you 1,000 contracts only to make a slightly higher high. You know, so that was exhausting, bringing the market all the way back up because of this deep wave down. So there's a problem here because you went from 5 points to only 1 point on the same amount of volume and same amount of effort, but getting less reward in terms of price progress from high to high, aka the thrust. So to wrap it up, your input equals, and for wave charts, time or volume. Your output equals price, but both distance and thrust. Okay? So I'm gonna, now that I've explained that, let's go take a look at some examples. So I mean, I could just use a couple of things here. I mean, there's another thing that has to do with like declining volume and declining time, and how, you know, that also signifies the reversal. So I'll give you a very straightforward example, like right here, from low to low to low to low. See that is declining, 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 and all of a sudden you have this big demand. So when that happens, a lot of times you just wait for that low volume pullback and then it's going to fly. So that's what happened here. You're declining time, declining volume, meaning declining supply or declining input, and resulting in the bulls taking over. So this is a different point But this happens all the time. I show you so many examples. I'm not going to do that. But, even over here, goes down and down and down. It's like, you will see this. When they do this, and then there's a big bull wave, there's a reversal. So, what to say? All right, now I'll look for some examples. Hopefully I can find some examples. Here's an example of thrust. You see, you got whatever this value is. It could be time, it could be volume. But the point is, the one after is slightly more. But look at how much thrust you get. You don't get shit. It looks like a spring. What happens? Boom, it's going to go up, right? Or something is not right. That's what should be registering. All of this juice, and how much do you get for it? You get nothing, right? You don't get anything. So there's a problem. I'm trying to find an example. This is all right example right here. All right, so you see this, can't really. Yeah, this was shortening of thrust, but this is an okay example. It's not that great, but we'll get the point across. You have to, all right? Okay, now watch this. All right, now from volume to volume or time to time, the input is what? Increasing, right? Increasing. But look at this. From this low to that low, it's subtle, but it is decreasing. So more input, less output. That means on this wave down, there was effort or there was dullness, and that's bullish. And boom, goes up. All right, so the pane at the top, the orange and yellow, orange and gray is the price progress, and here is time. But I could use volume and the same thing. All right. Here's another example. This is a good one too. All right. Look at all of this input. All of this input. In terms of distance, it produced. But in terms of from low to low, does it produce? Not really. Not that much. If I just showed you this, it's basically in a spring position. If a market goes in a spring position with a lot more volume and has no follow through and a reversal bar, what do you think is going to happen? It means it exhausted itself. All right. Let me see some other examples. This one, it also like pressed down with increase. Actually, made price distance increase. So not the best example, but you're looking for lack of a better word, diversions in the input versus the output. The input being time or volume, and the output being what? Thrust or distance. It will show you a diversion, and then you have to just use other factors and think about it and make a judgment, and you see what happens. All right, I can't really find any more examples. Anyway, so I don't understand why I can't find any examples here. this is a shitty example, but we get the point across. Right here you have 4 bars down, right here you have 7 bars down, and 7 bars is greater than 4 bars, right? Does it go down? No. Why? It's a crappy example, but well, I mean, I can't find any. So let's see. Anyway, so I think you guys get the point. I don't want to waste any more brain cells on this, but yeah, when the input is a lot and the output is less, you want to be thoughtful about that. Input more, output less, that means they found demand. Like on the way down, if you have a lot of input and you have very little output, they found demand. Market found demand. On the up wave, you have a lot of input, but not a lot of output, you found supply. Input is time or volume. Output is two things, either price distance or thrust, from high to high or low to low. If you keep that in mind, you automatically figure out how to read wave charts the right way. It's just going to happen naturally. The mistake most people make when reading wave charts, they're just looking for a big volume wave. Right? If you use a Weiss wave or whatever, you're just going to see, oh, okay, this is big volume. But it's not registering that could be many different things. You know, it could have just hit a level and some short covering, or it could be a shakeout or a spring or up thrust of a certain area and it'll continue back into the direction of the trend. But with this, when you think about it from input and output, you'll automatically develop the capability to identify when there is demand in the market and when there is supply in the market. It'll just automatically happen, but just by looking at the chart from an input-output perspective. All right, so that's how you want to read charts using the wave. All right, thank you. Bye.